Congress passed the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, the DCMA, in 1998 in order to protect the works of artists, labels, and developers in the digital age. But now critics are crying foul.
They are indeed, because they claim that the law has really gone too far and could lead to a ban on the copying of all audio, video, and software. People are getting arrested, courts are filing lawsuits. We begin today's cover story with cybercrimes. Jennifer London.
When you buy a book, a CD, or a video, you can lend it to a friend. You can sell it or keep it to read, watch, and listen anywhere. But new laws may slightly alter your rights. 3 years ago, Congress enacted the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, or DMCA. The law was designed to combat the theft of intellectual property, a big challenge in an age where most information, software, music, movies, even literature, is exchanged in digital formats. But the law has been controversial from the start. Critics say it undermines the First Amendment in a number of ways, including eroding fair use, a doctrine that has allowed students and researchers to reproduce copyrighted material for private use.
The DMCA is extremely problematic for protecting freedom of speech in cyberspace, and the reason for that is what it does is the DMCA bans all fair use tools. It doesn't allow people to be able to have the tools that they need in order to exercise their free speech rights. If you want to be able to make a small copy of something for personal use or for commentary, for criticism, the DMCA makes those tools that you need in order to do that illegal. And so that's a huge problem under the First Amendment, because what has happened is copyright holders have simply wrapped their works up in encryption with whatever restrictions they choose to put on them.
Another DMCA provision makes it a crime to create or sell any technology that could be used to break copyright protection devices. That section of the law is still being tested in a series of cases involving attempts to release information that breaks electronic copyright protection. In one, a federal court barred hacker publication 2600 from even publishing a web link to software that cracks DVD encryption. In another, computer researchers seeking to publish a study on music encryption technology filed suit to overturn the DMCA after the record industry warned they could be prosecuted for releasing the research. But it's the latest case, a criminal prosecution involving 27-year-old Russian cryptographer Dmitry Sklarov, that has drawn the most attention. The FBI arrested Sklarov in his Las Vegas hotel last week after he distributed a program that allegedly decodes encrypted Adobe ebook reader software. If convicted, he could face 5 years in prison and a $500,000 fine. The Electronic Frontier Foundation's Robin Groves says the Sklarov case could prompt the strongest DMCA challenge yet.
The support has been growing for overturning the DMCA, but then when this case broke, I was really amazed at how quickly the public really sort of galvanized in defense of this fellow, and I think this may be the straw that brings down the DMCA, in fact, because people are so outraged that individual computer programmers are being put in jail for writing software that has always been considered lawful and useful to most people.
Some predict that, assuming the law stays on the books, the DMCA will lead to a highly restrictive consumer marketplace. For instance, music lovers may no longer be able to easily buy and reproduce their favorite songs into a variety of formats. And one analyst insists that scenario won't be good news for the software and entertainment industries.
The question for the content companies has to be, when do they alienate their consumers to such a degree that they lose their consumers? The outcome has to be one in which consumers are comfortable enjoying their media and feel like they own it. It has to, so people talk about how music has to feel free. Well, if people feel like they're walking around with plastic discs that they can't use when they want and how they want, then they're going to start throwing them around like frisbees instead of using them to listen to music.
For Techlive, I'm Jennifer London.
The 2600 case mentioned in this segment is still pending. A protest that was supposed to be held today in front of the Adobe headquarters to free Dmitry has been called off by the EFF. Protesters were asked to hold off and wait the outcome of a meeting today between Adobe and EFF representatives.
As you might imagine, the controversy surrounding the DMCA has indeed become a hot-button issue in and around the Beltway. We spoke earlier with our Washington, D.C. bureau chief, Peter Barnes, who updated us on that aspect of today's cover story.
Congress is watching the many court fights involving the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, which is under attack over First Amendment, fair use, and other issues. Among other things, plaintiffs in court cases say that Congress did not intend to allow music and copyright content companies to use the act to stop academics and scientists from discussing their research into ways to break through encryption used to protect digital content. That's the subject of one lawsuit on the First Amendment issue. Critics also say the act should be rewritten to settle the question of, or clarify the question of fair use of digital content. That's the occasional use of copyrighted material by a private citizen without the permission of a copyright holder. That question the subject of another lawsuit. Then the courts are also grappling with a very important third issue, whether or not webcasters should be allowed to receive a compulsory license, an automatic license from, in this case, music companies, but in perhaps other cases, other digital content companies, a compulsory or automatic license to transmit digital content. In that case, involving webcasters, could be a precedent-setting one as digital content becomes a bigger and bigger business in years to come. That's an issue that Congress may have to look at again as well. So far, Congress is watching this fight from the sidelines. It's held some hearings on these issues, but it really hopes that all the parties involved in these court cases and in these negotiations will come to some kind of settlement to take care of all these problems, and that way Congress would not have to reopen the act. But at least one prominent member of Congress, Rick Boucher, Democrat of Virginia, and also the co-chair of the Congressional Internet Caucus, has proposed legislation to try to clarify some of these confusing provisions in the act to settle these and other problems. I'm Peter Barnes in Washington. Back to you in San Francisco.
Again, that was Peter Barnes reporting from our Washington, D.C. bureau.
Now, while audio and video may be the most popular forms of copied media, digital piracy doesn't stop there. We're going to continue our cover story now in the labs with a product that brings copyright issues into the video game market. Jim?
Yeah, I think Peter Barnes put it best when he said confusing issues and confusing parts of this law. Here's another one, and these things are just popping up all over the place. Something that on the face of it may seem somewhat innocuous, but if you look closely enough, you realize that using it may actually put you in violation of the law, and even selling it could be in violation of the law, although, unlike Adobe, nobody's going after this company. Let's take a look at this. It's called the flash linker, and it's a fairly innocuous piece of plastic right here. What it does is it allows you to make copies of game cartridges for the Game Boy Advance. Let me take you through exactly how it works. This is the Game Boy Advance right here. And the games all work on these cartridges. The reason why they use cartridges is so that you don't, actually, if you put it the other way around, the cartridge works. The reason why they use these cartridges is so that you don't copy them and give them to other people, as well as an easy way to sort of put the software in place and use them. Now, you can't make a copy of these in general. You can't hook them up to anything and copy them. But that's what the flash linker is designed to do. So you take the flash linker right here. You pop the cartridge into the flash linker. It's got a parallel port. You hook the parallel port up to your computer, you run the software, and then you copy the ROM on here, what's in here, onto the drive on the flash linker and into the PC. And you see I've got the software behind me, and what I've actually done is taken a ROM of Army Men, and I copied it down to what they include, which is this. This is a 64 meg flash card. Take a look at this. What happens is, once you've copied the game into your computer, then you can copy it onto this rewritable flash card right here. Once you do that, and this can hold 2 games, once you do that, you take it out, you put it in your Game Boy Advance, like that. You turn the Game Boy Advance on, and now, it's kind of hard to see the screen, but what you'll see is, I have actually managed to download, and it'll start in just a sec, I've actually managed to download this Army Men game from 3DO to this flash right here, to this flash ROM, and now I can play it without owning the cartridge. Now, you can download these games from various places on the net. You can obviously make copies of your own games for backup. But the real issue to me here is, there's pretty much, these are kind of copy protected. They're not designed to be copied. They're enclosed in their own plastic case. They're written on ROM, so you don't copy them. But with the flash linker, which is overall about a $230 product, you're able to extract the ROMs, put them on your computer, and then put them on this flash, and then play them on your Game Boy. It sounds a lot like a lot of the other cases that we've heard that are being prosecuted right now. So is the company called VISOLY, are they in violation? Well, I'm not a lawyer, I don't know, but it certainly seems to me like there's something going on here that if I were into the DMCA and I wanted to prosecute somebody, I'd take a closer look at it. Michaela?
That's Jim Louderback from our labs.